What's up, Star Wars Unlimited fans? It's Loopy here at Late Night Gaming, and I'm here with basically, half the Bothan Network, a quarter of the Bothan Network.
10%.
10%. But
15%.
A lot of good friends, and actually 4 Masterclass alumni, for the ultimate team up for the Bothan deck of Galactics, Kylo Tarkin Town. So thanks everybody joining us. I think that our fans, we work with Bothans all the time, so they're pretty familiar with you guys. But why don't we just really quickly, starting with Ian, tell us how you did with Kylo, what you've won with him.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. This is Ian, also known as Legopizza, part of the Bothan Network. One of the architects behind the Kylo Tarkin Town deck that we all brought to, not all of us, but I think it was 11, 14 or something like that. 14 of us. I don't know.
Mickey's still playing Quinlan.
Yeah, Mickey's still playing Quinlan.
Junior.
We had a great showing at Galactics. I got second place, losing the finals. Best loss I could ever had. It was worth it, and it was awesome. And then immediately after Galactics, like 2 weeks later, I won a PQ with it as well.
All right, and George, you were the unfortunate bubble boy at Galactics.
That's me, GeorgetheHulk here. Got 9th place at Galactics. Still happy with the run, but and all the work we put in, changing the meta again. Showing people that combo decks can succeed with whatever definition you want to use of combo in this game. But anyway, I took it there, and then had a PQ down here in Orlando right after Galactics, and got top 8 with that. So.
All right, and Frank, you actually had the most recent run with Kylo. How did yesterday go?
Yeah, I won a PQ Mobile, defended my title as the Mobile PQ champion, so 2-time champ down there. But I also won a event at Gen Con, one of the Masters events, so I think I'm the only 2-time winner with the deck, the only person that's won 2 tournaments with the deck. So y'all dragged me out of bed tonight to come get on the video. Y'all had to have some real gravitas on the video. Get Frank on here. So
all right,
always a pleasure, Loopy, to hang out with you.
All right, and Reflex.
Hey everybody, this is Andrew Reflex. I made day 3 at Worlds on the Kylo deck, finished top 64, and was able to take down a PQ on the second PQ weekend down here in Orlando with the deck. Been loving it ever since, and excited to talk about it.
Yeah, very good. And I think Reflex is actually I've known the longest here because you played Destiny, if I am correct.
Yeah, it's true. We go way back, man. Been a late night fan for a long time.
Yep, and likewise, Reflex. Actually, all of you, other than Ian, were instrumental in making the master classes, and I think this is number 29, I believe, and they've been extremely successful. And I can tell you, I had no idea that would happen when I first asked George and Guy, to do the initial one, and and I still think that the Yellow Sabine one might be the funniest and most energetic at all.
We had fun. Blonde Sabine, let's go.
Yep, and that catalog, by the way, it's good to watch too if you want to understand this game better. Listen to people that win, and that certainly means all of you guys. Okay, so the Bothans have already done a bunch of videos on this deck, and you've kind of gone through the history. You've kind of gone through kind of your methodology going forward. So we're not going to cover that. This is going to be like the Kira Masterclass where we just skip some stuff that we would ordinarily do because we had already done a video. But tell the viewers where they can go for that. Where have you actually put out content on Kylo Tarkin Town, other than what we're about to do, which is kind of the nitty gritty of the play lines and cards?
Yeah, George, why don't you answer that one?
Yeah, it's the For the Network, Bothan Network YouTube channel. It is, if you subscribe to the Blonde Sabine, it is a rebranded channel for there. So check that out. We got videos coming out, and we are in the process of working on a new show. We'll go over it again at the end, but Cardboard Chefs, we're hyping it up. We're excited. So, check that out. We went over the history of the deck, how we built it, and then I did another installment of my series, The Why Of, which I talk about, like, why you would choose this leader, why it's built the way it is, and that sort of stuff.
Yep. And I guess all of you guys are excellent deck builders. We've also did kind of an intensive deck building masterclass with George with Cad Blue. I think we covered a lot of that too. So check it out there, and absolutely subscribe to For the Network. I'm a subscriber, support these guys. And then for people that want to hang out with you, I mean, how much does it cost to join the Bothan Discord?
Big fat zero.
All right. And where can they find a link for it?
Hopefully in the description.
It'll be in the description, folks. All right. So,
Hey.
and
I wasn't sure if you were setting me up or if I was like missed a memo and I was supposed to like get it plastered on the screen or something.
well, you always miss the memo, but we are big fans of Bothans. And one thing that I will say is that if you just pop into their channel and ask a question, I mean, I do that sometimes, both about mechanics and then just other random stuff. But I mean, generally somebody will answer it. And that's a good way to go about it if you want to, get to the source, or say you're testing and you're wondering how these guys would address a situation. I mean, no harm going there and seeing if, ask the question.
Yeah, come hang out with us. Yeah, we like interacting with the public for sure.
All right. So we got a lot of stuff to cover. Let's kind of start with deck lists. And you guys have already talked about how this deck began. But Ian, this is actually your first list that you had?
Yeah, this was... I think this was the first one I made, but it was based on one that George had made initially. George was like the mastermind behind Kylo Red in general and got the team thinking about it. I think a lot of people had kind of looked at Kylo and was like, deploys on 7, that's probably too late, probably not good enough. And I think very clearly the red upgrades gave you a little bit more oomph than the other ones do. So, if you're looking for a deck that could try to, attack, flip your leader and kill your opponent in one go on one turn, like this was going to be the leader that could do it if any leader could. Palpatine might demoralize your opponent by stealing their best unit, but Kylo actually kills your opponent, which is a pretty good place to be. This version was like a force-based version, so we were obviously trying out a lot of new set 5 stuff. Like Talzin's Assassin, using Kylo unit to draw cards when you play upgrades on him, to try to just like keep the upgrade chain rolling. Inevitably, we realized that like the force stuff, which wasn't useful enough in Kylo, but the big thing that I think George had pointed out, and the reason that I was playing the deck so much was like when you opened with Migs with Kylo, being able to discard a card, draw a new one. You're not discarding for nothing really, like with the Kylo 2, the original Kylo in the game, right? You're actually getting the card back, and then you get the damage from Migs. We knew that interaction was so powerful that there had to be a deck here. Plus, like all the upgrades were so good, and you get a giant Kylo, that it gave us it was like just good enough to keep our interest, to see like how far we could push it. And then eventually we landed on a different base, which was Tarkin Town.
Okay, so tell me about why you guys moved off Tarkin Town. Whoever wants to answer that. Maybe George. Or moved to Tarkin Town, moved off Force. Tell me about that analysis, because that's a big decision.
So this is a case. Yes, I call this version lightsaber tribal deck with the lightsaber throw. You have to run a lot of lightsabers in order to make sure the lightsaber throws consistently on, and it's using stuff like Darth Maul with the gimmick of like Darth Maul's lightsaber that can deal all the chip damage you need in one attack. Sometimes that's this version of the deck. Why we went off of why we went to Tarkin Town and off of the Force. The Force payoffs, we don't have a Force. We don't have a leader that uses the Force, so we're having to draw these cards, and we're having to have these cards come in at the right time to actually even use the Force. It's Talzin's Assassins are great on 4 resources, but you don't really want to do it on 5. You don't really want to do it on 6. There's just the inconsistency of it. Is just absolutely dwarfed by the opposite, the consistency of Migs, discard, Tarkin Town, which plus Force throw Tarkin Town, making your Force throws always relevant, even in non-Migs lines. Tarkin Town really, it made Force Throw that much, an amazing card, that much better, and it already played into our game plan. Yeah, Tarkin Town was absolutely the right choice.
Okay, so let me
I'll say something about that real quick, Loopy. When Ian suggested Tarkin Town, it actually evolved in a way because of what we saw the meta was going to be Hantu Blue. And we really saw that these Force decks, we wanted to keep them off the Force. And the Tarkin Town with Migs and the Witch Force Throw that Reflex added to it, that is the impetus that made it, to me, as I picked up the deck late with the team, was that we could keep people off the Force, never getting the Force token, and you just almost win. It feels like a free win if you keep a Force deck from ever having a Force token.
Absolutely, and that's what Talzin was built to do. And let me put you guys on the spot here because I think this is interesting. First off, I mean, you do lose something going off the Force. Talzin's Assassin's a pretty good card. True?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay,
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. Mhm.
Right.
Again.
Yeah.
So let's talk about it because the final of Worlds was 2 set 5 leaders, both on blue-red. Right? So
Yeah.
would you agree with me that the best set 5 leader is Villain Blue? Overall?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, so here's the question.
Sure.
Is the best overall set 5 leader Kylo? Why or why not?
I would say it is just because I think that you have more game into more decks. Like as a team, like we didn't just brush off Talzin. Like we thought Talzin was a really good deck. We thought that it struggled really badly into like hard control decks, and we're worried about like I thought there was going to be more Kira at Worlds, to be honest. Like I thought Kira was still an okay deck. Like, yeah, it wasn't great into the Force Throw decks, but it was really good against the decks that were trying to beat the Force Throw decks. So I thought people might try to like level up, like do a leveling game there. And so I thought Kira was going to be more in Force, and I just didn't really like that matchup. Kylo, I feel like, has game into everything. Like you can play upgrades on units to race the aggro decks. You can play a control version, like, or not a version of a deck. Like you can play the deck as a control deck against the aggro decks too. Like against Vader, you just Migs, kill everything, grenade strike from the board, kill everything they do. They never have anything, and you just eventually flip and kill them. Against the mid-range decks, you just discard all the cards in their hand and they can't do anything, and then you flip a 12-12 Kylo and they lose. And then against the control decks, you just chip damage them, whittle away little bit by little bit, and then you get a giant Kylo for like 20 some odd damage to finish them off. So there's always lines that you have with this deck in every single matchup, which is, I think, the thing that I look for in decks is that there's never like an 80-20 matchup against you.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting. I mean, you're right that, I mean, Talzin you don't bring because you think control. That's 100% true. I do think that one of the brilliant thing you guys did was go to Tarkin Town and actually just not having to use the Force tag. I think for the Force tag synergies in blue-red, Talzin probably just does do it better, is my expectation. But I mean,
yeah.
And you guys,
in that regard, for sure.
Right, and I'm interested to see long-term how it goes. I mean, I have no problem saying that they're the best two, from the set. I mean, they're both actually in the same aspect, which is wild. And, Kylo is more versatile, right? Because Talzin does have to lock to a Force base. Kylo can go on all sorts of things. So.
Yeah, and it's interesting, too, because, like, Talzin, I feel like you're kind of locked into a game plan of, like, you are a unit-based deck. You're trying to kill your opponent with your units. Talzin's obviously important. You want to keep her alive. But you're not as good at controlling the board. Like, you can't deal with really big units if there's, more than one of them, or like a small unit and a big unit. Because you really only have like Power of the Dark Side and a Lightning, which has a condition attached to it. Because we have like Tarkin Town available to us to keep the board clean early, our Power of the Dark Sides are like way more useful. And we see the second Power of the Dark Side a lot more frequently because we draw more cards.
I think it.
And the Migs.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting how it goes, and it's different design decisions. One could argue that the Force Blast Talzin does gives you better long term, throughout the match than Tarkin Town. Tarkin Town is exceptional in the first turn of the game, but is a one-shot pony, right? That's cool stuff.
Right.
All right, let's get to
that tempo, that jumping ahead in tempo, jumping ahead on board has snowball effects throughout the game.
Right.
Where like the force payoffs, like the late game force payoffs are not like it's like the sun. You know, like granted you can use the force token throughout the game, but -1/-1 is contextually less, you know, than like killing a whole unit, right? But as far as Kylo versus Talzin, like Kylo offers you deck velocity, the ability to see 3 cards a turn, and find the cards you need and piece together the game plan and lines you want, which is super unique to him. And then also, I think one of my favorite quotes from Wu is it was a reference to Han plus DJ, and he's like, "This isn't a combo. This is just having a card with your leader." And that's kind of what Kylo does. It's like it's not like I don't have to assemble this combo. I've discarded the cards. I haven't had to play them in some cases, but then I just do the flip, and it's like a combo. But I'm just always gonna have it, you know. So I think what Kylo offers is fundamentally on another level to what Talzin does her thing, and she does it earlier. But yeah.
No, I think that's actually the biggest thing that you would say about Talzin is 5 deploy and 3/7. You know, that if you go to, but
right, you can finish a game earlier than you can finish it with Kylo. I don't win games before turn resource 7 with Kylo, right? Like that's just not possible.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get to Galactics. This is your list. I think everybody's seeing it at this point. Tell me about the change from kind of that initial idea, though, Ian.
Yeah, so this deck evolved in a lot of different ways. The big thing was nailing, like the 2 pain points that we had was just consistency and figuring out the upgrade package, which as you can see is a lot of 2-ofs, some 1-ofs. And then the early game package was 12 units that you could play on turn 1. I'm not counting Mahdi here because that's not a card you're playing on turn 1. But Witch, Karis, Migs, and Secretive Sage as your openers, which functionally in this deck is more like it's 13.5 cards because you have the ability to cycle an upgrade to find a new card from the top of your deck. So we eventually came to the conclusion that what you really need to do is have a really powerful start and then snowball, like George said, with Tarkin Town to a point where you keep your opponent's board clear with Migs and Tarkin Town or Witch Force Throw plus Tarkin Town. Then you can throw in some powers, some perilous positions, or throw a lightsaber on a unit to start clearing the next unit. And then you want to get to the point where you don't have a crazy amount of damage on your base. Throw in some discard with the Pillages, which can be combined with Force Throw to get the last cards out of your opponent's hand so that you can flip Kylo as like a 12/12 on average. Anakin, great card to clean up the board. Really easy to get heroic card in the graveyard, or in the discard, sorry, because of Kylo's ability to cycle upgrades. So you don't actually have to play the heroic card as opposed to some other decks where you would have to play the heroic card and then it gets to the discard. And then because we have so many slots dedicated to upgrades, which you're not always playing, the curve after your first turn kind of gets weird. Like you oftentimes are doing another 2-drop plus a 1-drop, like a Force Throw on turn 2. You could play a power, a perilous, or an upgrade. And then on the 4 resource turn, the real question we had was like, what card is actually good here? We don't have the ability to play Talzin's Assassin anymore, so what card can we fill that hole with? And we decided that Lone Pike was actually the best card here because not only was it a 4-drop, but it was also a 5-drop with Smuggle, so it got to service 2 points on the curve for us. And the shield with him is actually really powerful. A lot of times in certain matchups, like what you need to do is just have a little bit of chip damage on their base so that your Kylo can flip and kill them, and he can protect himself or protect your Migs or protect a lightsabered unit. But he can also later, if he sticks around, protect Kylo by giving Kylo a shield. And that can make the math for your opponent to kill Kylo a little bit awkward for them. So he's super versatile. He was a great add. I know, obviously, George, you could tell, was the architect behind that one as the Smuggle King himself. I think we started with like 2, and he's like, guys, we need the third one. We need the third one. And I eventually lamented because, of course, he was right because that card was amazing. So that card was super important. We decided pretty late to add the the Hot Shot Blaster as a smuggle option as well. It was also just a versatile upgrade because you can play it for 1 on like a Secretive Sage and trade into a 4 health unit. But what we also found was like sometimes your 2 attacks with Kylo were like 1 or 2 damage short, and because you were attacking with him twice anyways, having the option for that second one to be from smuggle as smuggling out for 5 doesn't really matter if it's going to win the game. Like, you don't care how much it costs, right? As long as you have the resources for it. It was a really powerful effect, and sometimes it just got you. Like, your opponent wasn't expecting it because they did the math and you were too short, and then you claim and because they did something, and now you get to sneakily kill them.
Okay, so there's a master's degree worth of stuff, and we're going to get into a lot of the things that Ian just said, as we get to the specific card interactions here. I don't think it's one that we did talk about. I mean, I think before, just as we were prepping here, we talked about best smuggle cards in the game, and I can get behind Hotshot being it. I mean, I can tell you that that's one of the very few cards that is up there with like Barrage and Force Throw, overall SWU stats. I'm going to do a like all decks playing all cards, what cards, move the most, but it's there. And it was interesting that you had the finals with 2 non-yellow decks, both having Hotshot in it, because it's more a yellow card than a red card, really.
It really is, yeah.
All right, so let's kind of talk about the differences then at Galactics, because this was actually George's Galactics deck. So tell me about some of the tweaks and why from Ian's.
Yeah, so this is I took 1 Battle Fury out and replaced it with the Constructed Lightsaber. Constructed Lightsaber has obvious utility like for Sentinels. Think like Secret of Sage, think Witch of the Mist, even Anakin in the late game. And Battle Fury is largely there to enable high rolls on the flip turn with things like double Holocron plus Battle Fury plus like a 3 cost. If you don't have that cheaper upgrade, you can't fully take advantage of like Sith Holocrons, Hotshot Blasters, Infiltrator skill. So having that Battle Fury opens up that. The thing is, for Battle Fury, even as a 1-of, if you're rummaging consistently, even as a 1-of, you're gonna find about 50% of the time. You go through about half of your deck by the time you get to the flip turn, if you're drawing 3 cards a turn. So for me, for a card I don't really want to play in the mid game, like I'd much happier putting Constructed Lightsaber on a Force unit than putting like Battle Fury on like a Migs or something. That's just where I went with it. And then I went for 1 Rival's Fall main as opposed to 3 Force Lightnings. Absolutely love Force Lightning, but for me, we were expecting a lot of Kylos. Nowadays, like Boba Data Vault's a thing, where their flip turn often wipes all your Force units off the board. And having at least some percentage of the time the ability to say, hey, even if I don't have a board, I can still kill the leader and then get that Kylo pivot. To me, that was worth it. Obviously, Force Lightning does a lot more. It's also an open fire. It's also a silence effect. So, but for me, during the Bothan House, I played nonstop Kylo ECL, so I was like, hey, you know what? The 1-of, I like it. So that's where I landed for.
All right, and then these guys gave me the list that says "Do not share Crispy" in all caps. So I hope this is okay with you, but he's already shared it too. And tell me about this kind of twist on the deck. We wanted to put it in there because you have some content on it, and it's a little bit different take. I don't know who wants to talk about that.
Well, I'll talk about the content and let Reflex tell us about his best friends list. But if you want to see a more detailed discussion of this list with the Ray unit in it, for the network channel, Crispy and I both won Gen Con events on Tarkin Town. He had the Ray, I did not. And so we did a video together. We went into a lot of detail on this, so we don't need to spend a lot of time on it here. But I'll go ahead and let Reflex talk about it.
Yeah, so the Ray version was actually just an alternate path we kind of went down about trying to maximize card draw and adding some extra volatility with the Ray draw. So we're drawing a card naturally a turn generally, and then we played around with things like Owen and I Am Your Father, which you see made it into this list, just to try to see if you could get some scam games off of just high rolling a Ray every once in a while. It was the first thing we actually worked on day one at the World's House. Me and Michael Carlock had played around a bunch with it and just decided it wasn't consistent enough. After George got to the house and talked some math sanity into us, we realized it probably wasn't good enough for something like Worlds. But unfortunately, Crispy wasn't able to make Worlds with us, so he kind of came to the deck a little late after Worlds. And actually, we were talking, I think for something like Gen Con where you have to go 6-0, the extra volatility actually played perfect to the event. So yeah, he took this both to winning Gen Con and then also top forward the same PQ that I won in Florida with it the second weekend of PQs.
Yep. Very good. And Crispy, great pilot. He did a master class on Han Vault with Co, I believe. And we're actually hoping he just actually did a thing with Von Reg. So I know Poem's looking for him for his off meta series.
Yeah, I did.
And great transition, because this is actually your list. This is what you took to the PQ, Reflex.
Yeah, so this was the PQ winning list from 2 weeks ago. So big differences are, meta coming off of Worlds, we expected to be a little bit different. We definitely saw a potential rise in Talzin and wanted to have some additional answers and additional points into that, especially off of the finals. We had plenty of testing after that to try to figure out how that went.
And what adjustments are specific to Talzin here?
Yeah, so big one is the Devastators coming main. We wanted some additional high-end threat. So, Talzin comes in and has something like a Rival's Fall or a power to answer the Kylo, or he gets the board clear on 7 or 8. We wanted something else big to hit the board to keep pressure on, because a lot of times with Talzin, we're trying to pressure their hand. And so being able to have multiple answers in a row is something that's really hard for them to do in the late game. So, if they have the answer to the Kylo, okay, now can you answer a Devastator? And so having that extra reach and extra high-end. Really
mentioned something on the Devastator too, that it's that 4 damage they can't stop. Oftentimes when we're calculating, we're constantly doing math with our upgrades to see how can we get to fatal. If we know we have a Devastator in our hand, it gives us 4 more damage that we don't have to get to. We go ahead and flip, get within 4, and then slam the Devastator.
It's ironically the same reason Talzin plays Devastator. There, I think self-throw is probably more of an issue based upon our discussion before. But I mean, most often it's just 4 from hand for 8, but that's sometimes, if you have 3 left to do, that's a good thing. And then Frank, this is the list you prevailed with yesterday?
Yes, won the 60-person PQ mobile yesterday. So I've gone to a little bit more of a one-of idea of, Reflex helped me understand the Devastators now. We're kind of fading on Devastators. They may even come out of the list altogether going forward. We'll talk about that later. But one thing I've noticed about the deck is that since we're often turns, we're actually drawing 3 cards. The 2 we get, plus the 1 off the Kylo leader activation. So drawing 3 cards per turn it's okay, in my opinion, to play a few more one-ofs in your deck. George had already talked me out of the 3rd Force Lightning, so it was easy to cut the Force Lightning for the rivals like he did. It was easy for me to go down to a 1 blaster and go ahead and put 1 Mahdi back in the deck. There's so many. Even yesterday I won 2 game 1s with a Mahdi. It's just why not have it one of in the deck? Because especially against the Data Vault decks, they don't have a way to discard you. They don't have a way to mess with your hand. So you can actually get a Mahdi, even if it's your only one in your deck, early, hold it for a long time. I think I had a Mahdi like 8 or 9 turns. I had a Mahdi in my hand yesterday until finally needed it to win right now. It's just, I like the one-of approach. I know Reflex doesn't, and there's a lot of different opinions on it. But this is the list I did.
Sunny D and Rando Mando agree with you. They love one-ofs. And sometimes, sometimes the one's all you need. we're not going to talk about this card either. Grenade Strike. When are you bringing that in?
All the aggro decks, Vader 4, obviously.
Yep, Vader.
We don't use Bombing Run. Yeah, all the aggro decks. I mean, I used it yesterday. My finals match was against a really great Chris guy that from Coastal Katina Crew, running a Cad Bane with a ton of 1-drops, like 15 1-drops. Cad Bane just aggroing at you. So the Grenade Strikes helped me a lot in those aggro matches.
Quinlan Killer Cad. All right. Let's talk about the leader. All right, so get into the cards itself. Kylo, this is his deployed side. Actually, his leader side's on the other side. Let's talk about his ability first. And George, you mentioned deck velocity before. What do you mean by that, and why is this ability? What's it? First off, where's the term from? Is that from a book or another source, or did you make that up?
Oh, it might be in the next level deck building. I've just heard the phrase. It's used in a lot of different card games. The exact origins of it, I don't know off the top of my head. So
what do you mean? What do you mean by it?
I've used it. It's your ability to see cards in your deck. Typically, it's used in reference to decks that have a high deck velocity. So this could be decks that like Scry and Magic the Gathering, or in Flesh and Blood. If you're boosting off the top of your deck, you're seeing more cards in your deck. And Kylo is another variant of this design space of I'm discarding, I'm rummaging, and I'm seeing more cards in my deck than a normal deck in this game can.
Things like U-Wing Reinforcement would let you look at a bunch of cards looking for them. That kind of idea?
Yeah, so like enticing reward, bounty hunter crew, bounty hunter quarry, sorry. Anything that lets you see more cards, because especially like for those, for like enticing reward, it's not only the ability to see cards in your deck, but it's also you can now make more educated decisions going forward because you know what cards at the bottom of your deck. So that's like when you're scrying, Inferno 4, all these kinds of things, all kind of lay into that concept. And it allows you to, so for example, in a normal deck build, you would want to have a certain number of 4-drops, certain number of 5-drops. Notice we only have Lom Pike Pillage. We don't have a lot of 4-drops because especially even Anakin, we only have the 3 cards in our entire deck that cost 6. How are we making this work? It's because we're seeing these cards work consistently because we're going through our deck faster.
Very good. Now, how often are you using this leader ability, the rummage? I mean, rummage is, I think, what an online platform calls it. I mean, it's kind of caught on, but how often are you using that during a match? Anybody who wants to answer?
It's a Magic the Gathering term. It's looting is drawing and then discarding and then rummaging. It is discarding, then drawing is rummaging. So one of the things people might have tried like a hard control version of this deck, and they notice there's a huge anti-synergy because if you're not killing your opponent's first unit on the first turn, you're going to get yourself in a play pattern where you never have initiative because you're using this extra action, and you're going to take some damage, remove the card, and then you're going to rummage again, and then take more damage. So it adds this really negative cycle where Tarkin Town completely flipped the script of we're not playing with our opponent having a unit, we're killing our opponent's first unit, and now we have all the actions to find the cards we need to assemble the correct answers.
Yeah, can I make a point on this one? My experience with the deck, I think, Loopy, reflects more of what your average viewer out there is going to experience if they try to really master the deck. My first 4 tournaments with this deck, Galactics, and then the first 3 at Gen Con, I only won 42% of my matches. Like, I was pretty bad with this deck. I had bad matchups, I had heart of the cards, whatever. I only won 42%. My last 3 tournaments, the Galactics I went undefeated, the Gen Con I went undefeated, and my last 2 PQs, I've won 84%. I literally have doubled my match win percent. And what happened, one of the learning curves is you don't have to use the rummage ability. Like, you don't have, like, when you see your opening hand, you don't have to keep like, I need three upgrades so I can rummage the first 3 turns of the game. Like, Rummage is a point. You have a point to rummaging. You're doing it with the Migs. You're doing it to filter your hand occasionally. You're doing it to get certain. Oh, I need a heroic in my graveyard for my Anakin. There's purposes to rummaging, and that was one of the leaps I made going from my first few tournaments to my last few tournaments. Is we don't have to use the leader ability without a purpose.
Right.
And you don't have to keep cards in your hand that you could resource them. Resource the upgrades. You'll get other upgrades.
Yeah, and I if I have to wager a guess, I said this early on as we were doing prep. I think that, I mean, probably what's separating us from what I saw of Ian's games, on stream, and some of the stuff at Galactics and how you guys play, and then what I'm seeing on people that are clearly struggling to pick on with the deck is, I mean, sometimes the upgrades need to be played, and not, rummaged there.
That was another big one.
Let me ask you this: if you need to play the upgrade, I mean, is it okay to skip the rummage?
Yeah, absolutely. Like like Frank said. Yeah, like Frank said, like you're not. The rummage ability should really be used for a purpose, and it's like, okay, well, I really want to make sure that I get the first holocron in the discard, because the holocron is like the most bang for your buck. And that's also not a card that you necessarily always put on a unit. You can make your Karis into a 3/5 that attacks for 5, and you can do that twice, which is great. But sometimes you'd rather just get a new card. The big ones are the 3-drop upgrades. Like those upgrades are so powerful on the Force units that oftentimes it's worth it to play the upgrade on one of those units and try to get value out of it. Because oftentimes, like, upgrades are really weird in this game. It's like if your opponent doesn't have an answer to an upgraded unit for 2 turns, like they almost always lose.
Right.
And it's just because you're doubling, if not tripling, the power of that unit. Like that one unit goes from a lowly 2-drop to basically like a 5+ drop in terms of stats or abilities. And being able to have that at an early point in the game is going to snowball both the damage on your opponent's base or the ability for you to clear multiple cards out of your opponent's side of the field without spending more cards from your hand. Eventually that upgrade is going to go to the discard for you later.
Yep.
Like it's a win-win.
And that's an excellent point, and I think actually reaches beyond Tarkin Town, for SWU. In general, upgrades, if they aren't answered, are the best thing you could do that turn. Upgrade removal is the tension. There's always there's very efficient upgrade removals, certainly right now. I mean, we'll see what happens after rotation, but I mean, in set 1, you have Confiscated,
right.
Fang Fighter, both is very good value upgrade removal there, but I do think that that can still get taxed. And for the most part, I mean, look at Sabine, right? If you stick a Chewbacca on like a ship turn 2, it's a totally different deck, right? But it's that Sabine is going to win the overwhelming majority of matchups if they can't find a way to get rid of it in short order, right?
Right. And I think the philosophy that we've kind of created with the deck was that because you're so proactive in the early game, you're usually not going to have initiative. Like you're going to use Tarkin Town on turn 1, right? Like you witch force throw Tarkin Town, or you Migs cycle the card and then Tarkin Towns. They're on the 3 resource turn, your opponent's going to do something first, and oftentimes it's going to be spending resources.
Right.
So that gives you a window to then play an upgrade on that witch or that Migs when they've already spent their resources on the 3 resource turn. So they don't have an answer to it, at least on that turn, right? Yep. You can put a fallen lightsaber on Migs, and you don't have a fear of waylay because your opponent played a guerrilla soldier or a red 5 in space or whatever it is. And oftentimes that's just enough time for you to gain an advantage that will snowball you to the late game for your Kylo flip. One of the things that we realized, like, and this is maybe specifically for one deck, but it kind of transcends the deck, but was that we were finding that if we could force our opponents to waylay on the 4 resource turn, because it's like such a juicy target, right? Like they see this Migs with a fallen lightsaber, they're like, I can't let this attack me again. I also don't want them to cycle and get 2 more damage. They're like compelled. There's like the card lights up in their hand, the waylay, and they're like, I need to play this card and get rid of this unit. It's so troublesome. But they're now playing off curve, and you already did something the turn prior with that upgrade. So you already got your value. You're getting the unit back to your hand, and then the upgrade's going back to your discard. So they're not even 2-for-1ing you. They gave you back the card, and the upgrade's going to get used later when you flip. So they basically just didn't do anything that turn. So when we realized that, it kind of also went into the other decks that have ways to deal with an upgraded unit on the 3 resource turn. It's like, okay, Power of the Dark Side is a scary card. Well, I'll just cycle before I put my upgrade on my unit, right? I'll delay actions so that my opponent spends resources, and then I'm going to upgrade my unit once they do, because it's the green light. And then if they power me on the 3 resource turn, I already did the damage. It's not as bad of a thing, and I'm going to use that upgrade again later.
Yeah, no, and I think that you're making light bulbs go off in my head here too, because I'm thinking about the design of the game, right? And we were talking not that long ago about how Devastator to do 4 damage to base is pretty good for 8. Well, how much does Constructed add that turn if you put it on Karis?
Oh, it's 4, and it doesn't even die to fell the dragon, right? It's crazy.
So yeah, but you're adding 4 damage that turn that you play it for 3, and I think that's pretty consistent. I mean, upgrades just pack a punch if they aren't answered. I think I heard you say there is one thing that you do is the rummage action is actually a dirt roll or a stall, because then they have to commit and then they open the way to play an upgrade. Did I get that right? Is that right?
Yeah.
See a bunch of
it's
nodding.
like a good reason to keep 2 upgrades in your hand. I will try to, if I have a 3-cost upgrade and I'm thinking that I might play it on something, I'll just try to keep any other upgrade in my hand so that I can cycle it on that turn to be able to delay an action.
All right, great stuff. And I think that he certainly is a great leader and will be around a long time.
Oh yeah, especially if post rotation time there's other upgrades that we get that synergize with them, right? I feel like that's one of the cooler design spaces that they've come up with in this game is really cool upgrades that have when played effects, like Craving Power, as you see in the Kylo Green decks. That card's really awesome. I hope to see more cards like that. Yeah. Maybe they'll add another snapshot type effect where you get to make an attack with an upgrade in a future set once that card rotates. But like I said, I just flipping a 12/12 Kylo is just insanely good, and
right.
I think that it's always going to demand an answer from your opponent, and if they don't have it, they're cooked.
Okay, so he has the Force trait too. I'll just say that because I want to ask the question this way. The last, I think, important text on this card is Sentinel. Does that come up in what matchups? Yeah. I see Frank Yannon. Why don't you answer that? When is the Sentinel important?
when is it not important? I mean,
when they have Saboteur is the answer. But go ahead.
Yeah, but playing this deck is I don't know. It's like a rocket ship between your legs. I mean, you're just holding on for dear life, and sometimes they're like, I'm gonna go flip a big Kylo and YOLO, see if they have a way to deal with it. Because I'm about to lose the game if I don't flip with a big Sentinel right now. That comes up a lot. That's a lot of games of Kylo.
And I would think the Sentinel affects the aggro type matchups, right?
Oh, of course, yeah.
It can, but you got to have enough removal. You just have to have the removal. If you're trying to flip to save yourself on 7 resources against a lot of aggro decks, I mean, yes, it can be that last thing you need to save yourself, but you got to have all the early removal against aggro, or you're just dead.
But I think it keeps you in the game. Whereas otherwise, a 7-2 leader just would have no shot against Sabine. But even the Sabine player knows throughout that, Kylo is going to be able to flip and block the ground arena, when that happens, regardless of anything else, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
100%.
And we'll definitely talk about.
I think the Force Change also is super relevant because, because we're playing so many 3-cost upgrades on the 7 resource turn. Sometimes you don't have a 1-cost upgrade to pair with it, but you have a Force Throw in hand. So that can come up, or they have a Sentinel out and you don't have the Saboteur upgrade, the Infiltrator skill. So you have a Force Lightning in hand, and you're not going to damage it, but you can still turn off Sentinel and then get through.
All right, let's get to one of the most interesting card arts in the game. You know, Migs Mayfield and Bill Burr. We actually identified, you know, Migs as being Kylo's best friend with set 2 Kylo, which I like playing. It is a good deck. He's a good leader too. I mean, he certainly actually has game. Don't look past there. But when do you want Migs in your opening hand? Let's start with Reflex.
Every game.
Easy.
All right.
He's not wrong.
All right. And I mean, the thing is that Migs discards a card when only you discard, right?
Nope. Any player.
Any card is discarded for any reason.
Okay, so have you
It
hit?
can go to base or a unit. The amount of times at Galactics my opponent had to double check that it could either do damage when they discarded or do damage to a unit and a base. It was like 3 or 4 times.
Right.
Pillage is already nasty, but you pillage with a Migs out. That's just extra nasty.
Force throw. Like, you don't even. Are you ever casting force throw without a force unit?
Yes,
100%.
If you have a Migs out, it's almost always still worth it. I mean, Force Throw is just so good that I just use it if I have a Pillage in hand and no units out, because I want to make sure that the Pillage is good.
It is a great card. It is my favorite. It's on my record. It's my favorite card. Most decks I play have force throw. Every deck I built, I think, that I'm significantly in the deck building thing has had force throw, other than I maybe had a little hand at Sabine. But you know, in addition to always, you know, being good if there's a force unit in some way, always being good if there's Migs is out. If it's the last card in their hand, it's probably right to force throw. I mean, it is just it's just a strong thing. But I mean, don't
mix for that.
But have you had people forget about like their discards with Migs?
Oh yeah, all the time. Like, people would ECL in a Poe and not realize that the Migs trigger is going to happen, and I kill a unit that they weren't expecting.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
it happens frequently.
Why don't we just do those? What are some of the like the other cards that cause discard effects that people might not be thinking of?
Bamboozle.
Yep.
Spark.
Bazine.
Yep.
Bazine. Yeah.
Ahsoka.
Poe.
Ahsoka. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the on attack stuff. Marin, right?
Marin.
Yeah, Marin. Oh yeah, I think Guy told me about his opponent like attacking into his Migs with a Marin and discard, or attacking into something and then like wanting to discard a card with Marin to kill Migs, but then the Migs got to kill the Marin before the Marin attacked. And it was like a blowout.
Yep.
I will say an unnamed teammate forgot that their Kylo ability triggered my Migs.
The mirror.
What? Okay. Must have been Mickey.
Another big
All right,
part of this
let's go.
is you do activate Kylo and you discard and you draw before you decide where the damage from Migs goes. So depending on what you draw, can change where you want to hit.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense. All right.
Yeah, I've gone to base before because I knew I was like drawing into a power or something. You know.
Oh, I
Most
have a-
common one, yep.
So
there is something. Hey, Loopy, real quick, go back to Migs. There is something about Migs though that can cause a little problem in our deck. Is that constructed lightsaber and the holocron are 2 of our best upgrades for us to put on a first turn play, but you can't play those on Migs because he's not a force unit. And they actually say you can't upgrade if they're not a force unit with it. And that actually does come up quite often where you realize, oh wait, I can't make this Migs a 5/5 or 4/5 right now.
I'm just mad at you guys because you made me put the stupid X-34 Landspeeder back in my Quinlan deck. You know,
Card, you don't need it.
and it's this
Yeah, get rid of it.
it's this SOB, right? I mean it's real close already because he also deals with like the 2/2 shieldeds, of which there's a lot.
Yep.
But I mean, letting Migs be on the board for any significant number of turns is a huge problem for I think any deck facing Kylo. It's just too good.
I think my my high score is 10 damage just from Mig triggers.
Yeah, and a fantastic line with Migs is that he can hit for 7 damage on turn 2 because you play him on turn 1, maybe you get the damage or not. You put a fallen lightsaber on him, you swing for 5, you go ahead and rummage with your. That's 2 more damage somewhere. I mean, That's a pretty nice first two turns with Migs.
Well, Bill Burr, he's a heck of a guy. I mean, did you see that episode of Mandalorian? He says he's got a gun on his shoulder, for cripe's sakes. All right. So you guys, this is the part of the master classes where we talk about the excellent core cards of the deck, and you guys have put a 1-3 here. So sell me on which of the missed.
The deck.
This was all Reflex.
Yes, the deck did not work until Reflex came up with this. Honestly.
All right,
it was
so
close, this was it.
So
Yeah.
from one witch aficionado to another, you know what's why is
Yeah,
witch
so-
in this deck?
I think the most important there's two really big words on this card, and one is hidden, and the other one is force. And so there's a couple key things that this did. Like Ian said early, this added, I think, roughly 10% to turn one plays outside of Migs to where we can trigger our Tarkin Town effectively. So Migs is great, and you're almost never throwing back a hand with Migs and an upgrade. Maybe never is the answer. But Witch Throw is often the better first turn play because it starts attacking their hand early. Normally people are crafting, multi-turn plans out of their first 4 cards. So if you can attack that early, you can maybe set up some more awkward turns later. And also sets up your pillage earlier. But the Witch also later in the game adds a way to consistently hit your force cards like lightning and throw. So like George was saying, we can have some inconsistency with a lot of our force units being easy to kill. If we have another unit on the board, especially being able to play the Witch behind it to protect against power or to have an extra unit that they can't attack into, really makes those force abilities a lot more consistent, as well as a slight thing that it gets our lightning to have 1 extra damage because all of our other force units cost 2. There's a lot of times that we need to be able to spend that 1 extra resource to hit the breakpoint on force lightning. So it was really like solving a lot of problems at once, and it was crazy. Like I thought I literally brought it to the team. I was like, hey, this may be bad, but like I feel like this card solves 4 different problems that we're having. And I think once everybody tried it, it was an insta lock in the deck.
Oh no, you think I think it's brilliant having now played. I've probably played 40 games with this deck, just trying to get ready for this and understand it so I can ask you guys good questions. But I see exactly what you're saying. I mean, the other trait she has is Knight, which tells me they think it's a Talzin card. Just because it's in Kylo doesn't mean you should put it in Talzin. It's not the same thing. It's apples and oranges. But
wait, have you ever old DACA'd your Witch of the Mist, man? Look at the value.
So, I mean,
Moving on.
moving on. That's a great point, Fred. I like you guys. All right. This is why I like Boffin master classes. I just like hanging out with you. I crashed your party at Worlds. Thanks for the invite, Frank.
We wanted you there.
Hope,
It was great having you, man.
Great success, yeah.
hope to do it, but just he said it in passing. Reflex did mention Power of the Dark Side. Merciless is very important to protect against that, and anything that you can play for 1, has that role. Salacious Crumb plays that role in a lot of decks. R2D2 from set 1 plays that role in a lot of decks. So I think that you do need to have some low cost units. All right,
so it's like they can't even attack into it to set up the power, which is like insane.
All right, so moving on to this is, I think, kind of the more obvious, and even looking at your very first list, you were on the interaction with Kylo and Anakin Skywalker. This is, in my mind, one of the top 3 cards in set 5, period. And it might be the best of them.
I think it's the best card. Yeah, I think it's the best one.
Yeah. So what were the other 2 I was thinking of? Any guesses?
Kai Mundi.
Kiadi.
Yep.
Kiadi Mundi.
Kiadi.
Mr. Ambush. I'll give you a hint.
Tyrannus. Yeah.
Well, no, actually, I was gonna say Vader. Because I just think that if you can reliably force ambush, the extra rivals fall.
You said Mr. Ambush, and he doesn't have ambush on him, so I was like not thinking of it.
Mr. needs a villain wrecker. How about that?
Yeah, I would argue Secretive Sage is probably one of the best too.
Secretive Sage
it's a good one.
Is way up there. Talzin Assassin. I mean, there's some very very good commons in blue in set 5, but
yeah, I was gonna say it's almost like we just named a bunch of blue-red cards. Very interesting.
Maybe that should be the color combination of the finals of Galactics. Who knows? But okay, let's skip it to Anakin. I think this is the most expensive card in the set right now. competing with Vader.
Yeah,
But
rightfully so.
right. First off, how much heroic do you need in your deck? I mean, you guys have 3. Is it just the 3 heroic resolves? I haven't seen heirlooms or anything in yours.
That's a George question.
This is why we have George on the team.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's more.
This is a reason.
Yeah, so in between 4 and 6 gets you to that nice 85 to 95% chance of hitting one by 6 resources. The thing with that was we also have other ways of going through our deck, and after playing with it more, you're going the 3 copies gets you to 80% or something like that, and getting that little extra. Just playing with it didn't need to, because we're drawing so much, right? So yeah, we landed on 3 and we were very happy with it. The Ray version with Crispy, he ended up going to 1 heroic resolve and 3 Rays, and just having a 1-of again hits that 50% chance of finding it. So yeah, go on from that however you like.
And
Yeah. So if I could talk about the leveling up process of my first half of playing this deck to now, and how to empower Anakin, it was actually been a big leap forward for me.
Okay.
Because first off, you always, in my opinion, get a heroic and you keep it so you can rummage it right away. I love rummaging heroic on turn 1 or any turn really, but Anakin's turned on. But the other thing I've noticed with the deck that I was making mistakes with early is I would come to 6 resources and not have a villain card in my graveyard. I couldn't play either side of Anakin because we often will start with a Migs or a Secretive Sage. We'll put a constructed lightsaber out there. Maybe on 5 resources, we smuggled out a long pike that's still on the board. And you look at your discard and you're like, I don't have a villain card. So you have to prioritize Heroic Resolve and a villain card of some kind to get into your graveyard early on in your sequencing of resourcing.
And sometimes you got to kill that villain card, so that it's actually in the discard too. I know that from the other way, playing Kiatis sometimes to turn it on for Talzin. I mean, the thing has to also die. It being on the board doesn't help. So, all right.
I'll say the early targets for the cycle Kylo ability are always Heroic Resolve and Holocron. If I can get those 2 as my first 2, those are the really early ones that you want to try to keep to get in the discard.
Good stuff. And why don't we talk about Aggrieved Parliamentarian here, and Restock to a lesser extent. I mean, those are things that hurt Kylo Tarkin Town. True.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Does it make your deck? Does it make your deck unplayable?
No.
Why not?
No, I think just with the 4 of us sitting here, we beat those cards probably 70% of the time, if not more. So obviously we're playing a quote-unquote combo deck, and we have a bunch of things in our discard. So the few cards that exist in this game that interact with our discard pile are obviously going to be strong. They're going to disrupt us. It doesn't just disrupt the Kylo flip, it also disrupts Anakin, which is why we're talking about it with the Anakin slide here. It is actually, funnily enough, more awkward when it turns off our Anakin, especially if we were relying on that to be in our hand to clear up the board before we flip Kylo. But in general, these cards have that your opponent's playing, it's an opportunity cost that they're putting them in their deck, right? They not only are having less sideboard cards for other matchups, but the cards themselves are taking up a spot in their deck once they've sideboarded, which means that they have this 2/2 that doesn't really jive with their game plan outside of stopping our game plan. So if they're not enacting their game plan while doing this, which most of the times is trying to kill us with their units, right? Like an aggro deck, if they're not applying pressure and then following it up with some sort of disruption, then the disruption's not going to be enough, because we've designed the deck to have so many upgrades that if you parliamentarian us too early, we're just going to get more upgrades into the discard. We're just going to, be able to delay the Kylo flip for a turn or two because we're not pressured to flip. and then get to the point where we still have 3 cards that we get to flip with.
Yep, and I think that's a great point, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. I mean, it is kind of weird. I almost look at it as more important as Anakin. You know, stopping that from blowing you out than there. And I also think that card is actually just better against Kylo Green than red too. I mean, the red one seems to kind of restock the discard pile with upgrades in short order.
Trust me, as a team, we've talked about like that Kylo Green deck so much, and like why is it only playing like 11 upgrades and stuff like that? And it's like, yeah, well, if you're playing 11 upgrades, you see 3 of them and you put them in the discard, and then they agree parliamentarian you and get all of them back to the bottom of your deck. You're not guaranteed to draw more to make your flip good in the time that you would need it. And for us, though, it's oftentimes we'll even have a guy out with an upgrade on it. So it's just like, all right, well, I'll just try to kill my own guy here and at least get something in the bin.
Yeah, and I think Anakin Green is a good deck, meta competitive, might be a meta deck, too, or Kylo Green. If I said Anakin, I was just a slip of the tongue. But it is kind of fundamentally different. I mean, you guys are very running a Kylo deck, and you have a very distinct game plan. Kylo Green tends to be blue-green villain with the Kylo leader enabled, and I do think that they can't afford the space for the upgrades like you guys built. You know, so it is backbreaking more to green than to red. All right.
Yeah, this is on 19, so because I've run the peerless positions, so I have a lot of 19 upgrades. You're gonna see plenty of upgrades after you get agreed. So,
but don't put your peerless position on your Anakin if you can help it.
No, but it just gives you another draw.
All right.
Rummage.
All right. Force throw. Great card. We don't need to spend a whole lot of time on it, but you're playing this often on turn 1 for Tarkin Town. That's one use of it.
With which. You play it a lot on turn 2. Like you open Migs, you Tarkin Town their first turn play, then they play like a 3/5 on turn 2, and then you play a force unit, force throw that, and all of our force units in the early game are 2 costs, so that magically leaves 1 resource open for a force throw. It's almost like we planned it. And so then you force throw them, you get the damage because you have a force unit, and then you get the 2 extra damage from Migs. Oftentimes can clear their next unit.
How often are you force throwing yourself?
Very rarely. I think I might be the only person on the call that actually has done it in a tournament, and I did it one time at Galactics to like force throw a pillage from my hands and kill a red 5 that was going to kill me. Reflex said he did it like one time.
Yeah, I've definitely done it a couple times. It's when you need to guarantee something, but often we're trying to attack their hand with multiple cards, and so the later the game goes, the more likely you are to probably throw from yourself. But early game, we definitely want to attack their hand and try to stress their answers in combination with Pillage.
Okay, and I think Tarkin Town is the exception to, turn 1 force throw can be bad because you're actually relying on that as a potential removal for the Tarkin Town. But other than that, once Tarkin's Town used, anybody want to talk about sequencing of the throw itself?
I mean, you get a bigger damage if you can dirtle and wait till they play their turn, whatever they're doing on the curve right now, and then you force throw because what's left in their hand is usually bigger. You can also force throw on 3 resources anyway, just to get a card out of their hand because you're going to pillage on 4 resources. I mean, it sets up pillage. You dirtle to get a bigger card out of their hand if you want to get more damage. I mean, those are kind of the basic lines, right?
Yeah. I would say like there is some interesting things about if you have force throw and pillage at the same time on like the 4 or 5 resource turn and you're trying to figure out sequencing there.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes it's going to be dependent.
It's really interesting. Yeah, that's when it's really. Do you force throw? They have 3 cards. You force throw first, or do you pillage first on 5 resources?
Right.
Right, and that's usually contextual on if they have spent any resources yet. So I would actually prefer to pillage them first because they're going to play that 1 card before you can play both of them. So you can pillage their hand. They're going to keep the 1 card that they're going to play. That's probably going to be their next action. And then you have like a solid first turn action on 6 to just force throw the only card they have after resourcing.
Yeah, and you're doing exactly the math is. I mean, you do have to be careful with pillages to put them to 0 because then the force throw is not effective, right? Because it doesn't do anything.
Mhm.
One of you said in prep that oftentimes if you just have force throw, wait for them to double spell and then force throw. I think that's excellent advice. I mean, whoever said that, because that's something that I specifically look for. Oftentimes in a game, you play one thing a turn, linear, and then on like 5-6 resources, then you actually do cast the two things. If you don't need the force throw before that, right after that double spell, it's almost always going to be a banger under most circumstances.
Yeah, it's one of the main reasons that we saw Pillages come main, is because we found often that in the force throw meta, people are often playing a unit plus a spell or playing 2 cards a turn or in the early game. And then a lot of the aggro decks were go wide aggro decks, so they're also often playing multiple cards a turn, and that turns the Pillage on much earlier than it would be normally.
Right. And I think we kind of talked about it, here. What decks are you looking to pillage, though? Where do you think that's effective?
Everybody.
I pillage everybody. I'm an equal opportunity pillage person, personally. I believe everybody should get discarded.
So I'm running Sabine into ECL into you. You're expecting to pillage me?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially if especially if you're like, that they have like a Poe that's going to try to discard cards to deal with a constructed lightsaber on a secretive stage that's making a problem for them, and you want to make it sure that they don't have the cards in hand to be able to discard to the Poe, or they on 4 resources they went double A-wing, and you're gonna take a bunch of damage from those A-wings, but you have like an Anakin that can clean them up on 6 because you have a heroic in the discard, and they only have 2 cards left in their hand, and it's probably like a Poe and a Wrecker. So you just pillage them, get rid of the last 2 cards in their hands. Now they can't use their ECL effectively. Now they're on the top deck mode. They have a lot of bad top decks. So, you can get to a spot where you just set up to delay the inevitable and take the best cards out of their hands, and then you kind of go from there.
All right.
Yeah, Loopy, let me point out one more thing on the Sabine matchup on Pillage, is that we really try to get Wrecker out of their hand. Because Wrecker is one of the very few things that Sabine can do when we flip our Kylo. If we flip Kylo, we have to get to a magic number of 13 health to avoid being ECL record or timely in record. Unfortunately, 7 resources is a timely in hand with a Wrecker would kill a lot of our Kylo flips if we don't get to 13 health. So the Pillage is another way to make sure they didn't have a Wrecker before we flip.
All right. So opponents-wise, George, what kind of things can they do to avoid getting blown up by Pillage?
Smuggle. So
he knew where I was going.
Really set that up on a tee, huh?
Yeah. So your cards like Cassian obviously follows up. You pillage on 4, Cassian on 5. And then your hotshot blasters, all that sort of good stuff. Even Lom Pikes and these blue-red Villa mirrors. So that's really the only time. Pillage, it's like if your opponent has already invested into card advantage, or if they're like a deck like Quinlan, where Pillage is super contextual, where it's like, well, if you pillage them, they have so much smuggle, you're not actually stopping them, but you could be stopping that bamboozle. So
right. No, and I think it's right. And
you have to weigh that.
And like cards like L3, right, which is a 2/2 shielded for 4, from smuggle, but it does actually make a little bit more sense into Kylo at times because you're just trying to protect the things because they're probably going to try to come after your hand at some point themselves. I added this thing to Talzin, in large part because of the pillages, there. Lompike's a very good card. Why is he in this deck?
Yeah, I think
Well, there it is. That's a great answer.
Yeah, no.
He doesn't energize with anything we're doing, really. He can't protect. Obviously, he can protect Kylo with a shield if we needed him to, but it really is just because George has figured out a long time ago with Hondo, this is a really great card.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Go ahead, George.
Because we're stressing our ratios in our mid game ratios to the max, right? Like we don't have a lot of 4 resource, 5 resource plays naturally. We expect to find them because we're going through our deck, but usually it's a combination of cards to get full efficiency out of our turns. And Lompike has a very unique spot where it is not only a fully efficient 4-resource play, he's also a fully efficient 5-resource play, depending on how you play him.
No, I think you're right, because he's pushed as a 4-drop, right, at 4/6 with a good and on attack. But notably, they also push the smuggle. In general, I think smuggle naturally costs 2 more to do.
Yeah, typically.
But there's a few things that cost only 1 more. Lompike is one of them. There's also that the green card Hondo plays, the Star Viper.
Timely intervention.
Right, timely intervention.
You get a well-statted 4-drop and get the draw card for 1. It's just really efficient.
Right. No, great stuff. You play it
And
more.
then another important, the stat line, because obviously you can't fell a Lompike and you can't take it down either.
The resource, that's the Ruthless Raider stat line. Right. No, that's a great point, Frick. Okay.
Yeah.
Force Light.
One more thing.
Oh.
Yeah.
I was going to say.
One more thing.
Infiltrator skill. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
You can put infiltrator skill on Lompike. So if you do a line where you have a 4-resource Lompike, you can just start farming all your opponent's stuff by like putting infiltrator skill on them. You can attack into a unit, give the defending unit the shield, and then just pop right through it, and then give yourself the shield. So
that's just filthy. All right, Force Lightning. I saw a video from you last week about the best cards that aren't seen play right now. Up until Les said, I think this was it, right? Because Force Lightning is naturally very, very good. It's just that we didn't have the Force density, to make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
But what role does it serve for Kylo?
It serves a lot of roles. The big one is that it's just like it's another removal event that's very efficient. It obviously scales infinitely, right?
Right.
The more resources you have, the more damage it can do. So it can deal with small stuff efficiently, but it can also deal with big stuff efficiently. The obvious condition here is that you have to have the Force unit out, which is why we're playing so many, especially early drop ones, so that we can, like Reflex mentioned, you drop that Witch of the Mist, then you have Force Lightning, you can still do a bunch of damage. One of the interesting things that we found that the deck struggled with initially was with like lurking TIE Phantoms, and if they like piloted up with like an Iden pilot with like Gar Yellow, right? We're a Power the Dark Side deck, turns off a lot of cards. Force Lightning just has an insane amount of utility to be able to get rid of those type of cards right away. And also just the one cost, make sure that something doesn't have abilities for the phase, even if you don't have a Force unit. Super versatile. I love playing it on Sentinel units, playing it on like a random Poe or something so that they can't get the attack off or the on attack off, or there's just a bunch of different options with the card. I think it's super versatile. It's a decent backup to Power the Dark Side on two resources to get rid of whatever they have,
and
so that you can keep them off the Force.
Our favorite target with it is Super Laser Tech.
See, it's going back to one of the first shorts I did for Swoo was Zap the DJ. But you're exactly right. I mean, it's removal if you have a Force unit. You can go to the Talzin Masterclass. We talked about Force Lightning a lot because it's the best card in that deck. Talzin basically always says the Force, and we went through it. But you'd be surprised that if you really play with this card a lot, how often it's useful to cast for 1. I guess I'll leave it at that.
I mean, our teammates were playing it out of aspect in the blue-red hero decks because it was so good. And obviously they want to turn on Anakin, but it was just that good that it was like we're just max copying it in our hero decks.
All right, Madi. When is he good?
Well, he's much better
Data Vault decks.
I don't know that you have him. Unfortunately, never going to test in theory.
Right, because it's very efficient if you do 2 and you ready your leader, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we have Sith Holocron in the deck, which can do the 2 damage to the Mahdi to then untap the Kylo after it attacked. It's just a multiplier. Oftentimes you're trying to do a lot of math, and Mahdi just says ×2.
Right.
Yeah, so the base level is with 1 holocron, you can do 16 damage for 3 resources, which is like the smallest version of the combo.
Right.
which is more than you can do with a full Kylo flip normally. So
And Mahdi also causes your opponent to play bad. Like if your opponent knows you have a Mahdi in your deck or thinks you have a Mahdi in your deck, they have to take play lines that aren't always optimal just to make sure you're not about to put a Mahdi down.
Now, are there some decks you should side this out against?
I currently have it in my sideboard. I know Frank likes having at least one copy main, but yeah, it's not the most useful against the aggro decks. It's really good against the slow data vault decks. It can be good in game ones against everybody though, because they're just not expecting it.
You'd be surprised how many people have played Mahdi into a Talzin with the Force.
Kill immediately.
that's when it usually comes out again.
Right. I would say
I did play that Mahdi into a Talzin with the Force when I already had a upgraded Long Pike and already attacked.
yes.
So.
No, if that way.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, a lot of times,
I beat an Iden one time. Sorry, I was just saying I beat an Iden one time because they had a Snoke out, and I flipped my Kylo, which doesn't get the -2/-2 from the Snoke. And then I just played the Admiral Mahdi. I didn't have a Sith Holocron, and it just let me untap my Kylo and kill him.
I did that. I did that once.
Amazing.
I did that once playing Vader. When I had Mahdi in, trying to make something work, which I never did. But I did have that, and they had a Snoke out, or they played Snoke after I had already attacked with Vader, and I played Mahdi, and he just came back up. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, just one thing to note, like just make sure it has to be a villain unit, so it's just Karis, Long Pike, and our leader. So just make sure to
Right, and don't play him on
Can't be
turn
any-
one. Just keep him in your hand or
Yeah,
resources.
please don't.
Don't play him in turn one. It's not doing anything for you. All right, Devastator. This is one that has a specific purpose. Why do you feel it's good into Talzin? Why are you adding it there? Just the reach?
Yeah, it's kind of like a
It's just super fun.
Yeah. It's kind of like a pivot. Like they're really good on the grounds, but not necessarily in space. It requires them to use some of their premium removal options. So like if you're delaying the Kylo flip and you can play a Devastator first, they oftentimes are going to have to spend a lightning to get rid of it or a Power of the Dark Side to get rid of it. And that lets you kind of flip with a little bit more agency.
Right. All right. Let's talk about some of the upgrades and where they're for constructed. I actually, or where are you looking for constructed in particular to play it before Kylo, right? Because it always makes Kylo stronger, and that's obvious. But when are you like prioritizing? Hey, I'm going to actually slam this constructed on something.
Aggro match.
Yeah, I mean against the aggro matchups, putting it on the neutral to give Sentinel is super powerful.
Neutral force.
I think it kind of, neutral force. It kind of goes back to a thing I talked about previously of like, if you know your opponents are tapped out on the 3 resource turn, you can just slam it on a card to push damage. You don't necessarily need to do chip damage in every matchup in order to make sure Kylo flip can kill them. Oftentimes you need to attack with Kylo twice anyways. But sometimes, playing the upgrade on a unit goes unanswered, and then you only have to attack them once with Kylo. So this on a Karis against villainy decks can be annoying if you also have another unit out, so that Karis doesn't die to the Power of the Dark Side, and then they don't have any other removal that 1-for-1 said.
Yeah, I sideboard this card, quite a bit with Talzin, and it's in for Sabine, and it's great because on Secretive Sage, it gives you this big, thick Sentinel that doesn't die to
with a
fail.
shield.
Yeah. Alternatively, on Karis, I mean, just hitting for 6 against DCL, against Sabine. I mean, you don't even, it'll be, if their only upgrade or removal is Poe, they've lost the game by the time they get to it. If Karis swings a couple of times. Right.
And the nice thing too in our deck is like, it's not unique. Right. You can just put another one on it. If they don't have the removal for the first one, they probably don't have removal for the second one.
The old she coming strategy. I've done the same thing. I think I've had 2 constructors and a fallen on Karis as the game ended.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't fix the first one. Why would they be able to fix the second too? Great point, Ian.
Yeah, and there's
Good
just
stuff.
some aspects that just can't deal with it without removal upgrade or upgrade removal.
And sometimes, even if their deck has upgrade removal, they haven't drawn it. And if they haven't removed the thing that's losing them the game, there's a pretty good chance that they have, you can continue to abuse that till they stop it. All right, snapshot. I think it's interesting. It's a good call. It makes sense why this is in the deck out of aspect. How often are you playing it before the Kylo flip?
I've done it a couple times. The only time I would really play it as a card as an upgrade, like on a unit, is if it gets a break point to let me trade into something that I normally wouldn't be able to trade with.
Right.
Like maybe if my opponent has a Secretive Sage without a shield and I have a Migs out and I have the first action for some reason, I would like snapshot Migs into their Secretive Sage. But like, it's pretty niche. It oftentimes isn't worth it. I'd rather just cycle it or resource it if I already cycled the first one.
All right. Well, great stuff, guys. We just pounded through, I think, kind of some of the more complex, cards here. Let's kind of talk about the meta matches for set 5. Going into a Sabine deck, what are you looking to do? What's your game plan? Why don't we start with Mr. Blanc Sabine? Did you have to did you have to play Sabine yesterday?
I did. Yeah, my first match was a really great player, Ben from Coastal Katina Crew. He was actually on that weird European. What did Benton run? Like a Sabine with some other stuff, like Grogu and stuff in it. Or what was it?
It was Porgs.
It was Porg, yeah.
Porg Sabine.
Yeah.
Porg and like 9 lightsabers, I think.
Yeah, a lot of upgrades.
Yeah, but I think Sabine is just it's still just an aggro deck. Other than worrying about Wrecker when you're on your flip, it really is just trying to kill everything they play until you can flip. And this is like we didn't really talk about much the YOLO flips of Kylo, but the level up again, leveling yourself up from learning the deck to actually doing well at tournaments with this deck. Sometimes you just have to have a gauge of when you just flip Kylo, put a bunch of stuff on him, and just see if they have an answer. And Sabine has very few. Sabine literally has that Wrecker I mentioned, and that's about the only. They might be able to cobble together something with a Rebel Assault or even a Poe, maybe. Sometimes they get rid of one of your 3+3/+3 upgrades with a Poe ambush, maybe. But there's just Sabine doesn't have a lot of ways to deal with your Kylo flip. If you can kill their units, you get to it, you generally win these games.
Yeah, I think the big breakpoints you need to know are Poe can do 11 damage on a timely coming in if he discards twice, and then Wrecker can do 12. So those are the two numbers to know. And other than that, like Constructed's really good here. But
right.
Yeah, you're just trying to survive. Like if you can get to your Kylo flip and he can't burn you out, you've won the game. So it's just about trying to survive the early game, like having efficient removal. Upgrades. You want to play your upgrades early in this game because your units just beat their units if you play upgrades on them. So basically any upgrade we would love to play.
So you're looking to suit up as much as possible into Sabine and similar.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Fallen Lightsaber is also a great one here. Like if they start A-Wing, you start Karis or something like that, and then they go like Fleet Lieutenant, A-Wing, 5 to base. You can put a Fallen Lightsaber on Karis, do 5 to their base, ping the Fleet Lieutenant, and then Tarkin Town the Fleet Lieutenant. And now you've changed the race because they only have 3 damage coming in, and you have a 5/7, which is really hard for them to remove. It also checks their Sabine on the flip. Then you can start doing more crazy things, like on the 4 resource turn, put Sith Holocron and another lightsaber on her and hit for 10. And now they're in check. I've done that before. It's very funny. They basically have to claim and then hope they have a Poe to get rid of the Karis. And if they don't, they just instantly lose the game.
I'm glad you say that. I've been, trying to get that a point. Most of the times I actually win against Sabine as Vader. It has nothing to do with my leader. It's actually because I put like a Fallen on Crumb. And, their base has 25 and Data Vault has 33. And it is effective. And we were talking about this before with Constructed. I think it is double duty here because it is good as a Sentinel to block them. And it is also just good to start smacking down the Energy Conversion Lab. and you can get there in a hurry. All right, Quinlan. It's actually funny. I don't know if I told you guys this, but as I was walking into Galactic second day, there was, at least it was known then, that the Tarkin Town deck existed, and I think that we said that Quinlan and Talzin, as I was walking with Wu in, that Quinlan and Talzin, at least we have a shot, right? Because I think that there's a lot of decks that probably just really, really would struggle into not having any hot. But what are you looking to do into Quinlan? I don't think Quinlan really auto loses to anything, so there's some lines here that work.
Yeah, so we spent a lot of time on the Quinlan matchup. I think it's one, and you know this from playing Quinlan, like the range of expertise on Quinlan players varies a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like one of the ways that you level up as a Quinlan player is by just jamming a lot of games into specific matchups so that you can learn all the intricacies. When you're playing a ping leader in this game, like that pass game in the early game is super important to understand. And every time there's a new deck that comes around, you have to relearn, okay, well, into this matchup, can I do that? Or do I have to play a unit? And that's something that we noticed in our own testing with our own Quinlan players on the team, was that, when we played against them the first couple times, they struggled a lot, and then they would kind of learn more intricacies and they would get better, but then we would too. So then we would start getting better into the matchup again. So it kind of like ebbed and flowed a lot based on like how much sheer practice you have, because it's just a very intricate game when you play a Quinlan. I feel like the pass game favors Kylo.
For sure.
If people saw the top 4 against Wu at Galactics, our game 3 wasn't much of a game because he didn't have a turn 1 or turn 2 play, but I didn't know that, and he passed and I just claimed, and then I passed and then he claimed, and in my eyes, that I was winning because that happened. I didn't know that it was because he just didn't have anything to play. But our kind of theory on it is that as long as the Quinlan doesn't put enough damage on your base to kill you by your flip turn, you're going to be super favored because they don't have a crazy amount of ways to actually deal with a 12/12 on the ground.
Thoughts on Quinlan?
It can be hard.
Yeah, other than that, it's just like all the discard cards, like the force throw is like really important. I always kind of say like Vader mirrors or who plays more OBs, and if you play the same amount, then you get to have a real game. Like this is almost like who plays more force throws, and if you play the same amount, then maybe you get to have a game. Force throws super important, both sides of this matchup. But other than that, it's having a good plan for 5. You have to survive through 5, and if you get to a good place after 5R, you usually win the game. So it's about trying to set up a big Anakin on 6, or a Rival's Fall if you can clear the rest of the board. But yeah.
Anakin's an MVP in this matchup.
Yeah,
for sure.
So
I really like Perilous into the Quinlan as well. Like just putting Perilous on Quinlan leader to make him into a 1/5, like it kind of just takes him out of the game. The pings don't do that much against us. Like it can be useful late game, but really it's just about staving damage.
Right.
So the tension on 7 resources for the flip is that they could have bamboozle.
Right.
And so I like to keep 3 resources. If I could, I would like to flip, spend like 4 of my resources, keep 3 up, so if they bamboozle me, I can put one of those 3 right back down. But the problem is it's really hard to get out of Han ambush range if you do that. So this is the real tension, is playing around bamboozle and the Han ambush at the same time if you are going to flip Kylo on 7.
Yeah, I think the break point is 8 health because it's 6 plus the ping from Quinlan is 7 damage. So if you have 8 health on Kylo, yeah, it won't die.
One of your 3 3s upgrades,
Right.
and then like 1/1/1 gets you past up, and you still have 3 resources up to replay. Yeah, if you bamboozle.
Right, you're talking about Han Solo, 1, the first Han, right? Because it is a 7.
The 7-drop Han unit.
It is a 7, so the ping hits Kylo later, whether Quinlan's alive or dead. Doesn't need to be dead.
Yep. One of the things that I do too, again, the matchup just for sideboarding is I actually sideboard out Pillage. This is one of the matchups where like I'm fine playing it in game one, but I think there's more useful cards post board that we have. Like I like bringing in grenade strikes, and in case they double 2-drop on 4, and things like that. Perilous, if it was like, I think I had Perilous in my sideboard at the PQ, so I brought those in. But like the Pillage is really awkward when you're doing the pass game against Quinlan, because they naturally have more cards in their hand, right? Because they didn't play anything on turn 1.
And Quinlan has better smuggle too. I mean, Quinlan does carry a significant amount of smuggle. I mean, one of the advantages are things like Hot Shot and Cassian and that kind of thing that you have to be conscious of. I think it is a fast.
Sorry, I was just saying the number one thing that you have to be wary of too is Kira. Kira can really ruin your game plan. Again, back to Galactics, if you saw my match against Wu in game 2, I only had one card I could play that turn when he played Kira, and it was a Karis, and he named it from my hand, and then it literally just blanked my entire turn, and I couldn't come back from there.
No, I think Kira is great. Ahsoka, much less so. Into this matchup.
Oh yeah, we always have an upgraded discard for Ahsoka. She rarely gets to do the thing.
Right, and one of the reasons is that, I mean, if you look to the way the deck is constructed for Kylo, it is very narrow. So, I mean, even if, you go through Quinlan players, first off, you can name, Lompike, even if he's not seen in the hand. That's one thing to remember. But just like turning off Anakin is gigantic. Right, I mean, that's where you beat it, and that's where you're really looking for that card. How do you guys think Bamboozle affects this matchup? I'm curious what the answer is.
I mean, it's definitely useful. One of the reasons that we like Snapshot is for this type of matchup where you know that they have some sort of answer for Kylo post flip. So if you can get them to a point where you got to put some damage on them, and then snapshot them for lethal, the Bamboozle doesn't matter.
Right. I think that's right. Though I think that Bamboozle is actually really not that effective into Kylo Green, just because of Craving Power. I do like it into the red one.
Right.
All right. Your other baby. This is Carlos's Vader yellow. Liz, what are you looking to do with Kylo?
So.
Or excuse me. What are you doing as Kylo into Vader? What are you looking for?
Migs or bust.
Migs or bust. Mm-hmm.
In game 1, it's definitely Migs or bust. You can do some really cool stuff where, like, let's say you have initiative, you have a Migs, they're probably going to play 2 units on turn 1, so you just pass as the first. Oh, sorry, no, you're not passing. You're playing Migs. They play like a 1-2 or a 2-1. You cycle. With your leader ability, you kill the 1-2. They play another one, and then you get the claim. And then you just first action cycle again, kill the other one before they even get to attack. Granted, if they have a 1-3, you either have to Tarkin Town or they'll get to attack, which means you're not going to get initiative. But it's still like a super powerful play. Force Lightning is like one of the best cards in this matchup because it kills both Lurking Tie and the Clone Combat very easily.
All right, what about CAD Tarkin Town? What are you looking to do in this matchup, George?
So this one, they're going to try and deny the Force token for you, their ambushers and such. Really, but they're still a 25 health base, so get in a little bit of damage early, and then they're still going to be staring at that huge Kylo going, yep, as soon as that flips, I'm dead. So, are still going to do. A lot of them are on Bamboozles nowadays. So, with the Jabba Bamboozle, you kind of have to lean on Snapshot reflexes to get there. But
do you think Jabba's a good card against you?
Yeah.
It's really annoying.
Yep.
I mean, it gives them cards to discard, the counter force throw. If they're on Bamboozle, it lets them not only find it, but like present it, being like, hey, now you have to play around this. And
this is Mephisto's list, who's a Bothan. Shout out to him. We're hoping to get a CAD Tarkin Town masterclass, shortly here. But like when people ask me as Quinlan, what I think about CAD, my first question is, do they have Jabba? Because it really is annoying for, discard strategies. What about Talzin?
real
Go
quick,
ahead.
yeah, just Pillage is one of the best Pillage matchups is CAD. Pillage is really, really important to CAD. And the other thing to know is just remember all their ambush breakpoints at each resource level.
Right. And the reason that Pillage is so good is that CAD lacks card draw than Mist Hunter. And then to
Yep.
someone
And Jabba.
and Bazine and
Mist Hunter
Jabba.
prior, you need to kill Mist Hunter ASAP if they get it down.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Talzin.
Yeah, Talzin, especially the version that the Swoop Racers, Sip and Benton brought to Galactics, is a very aggro-focused version. So pretty much you want to just kill all their units. You're not really going to stop them from getting the Force token because they have the Sith Acolyte, which on death will get them the Sith, the Force token. So it's more so just about like managing the board. Having a plan for Talzin when she flips, so setting up like a protected force unit with lightning is really good, or having a power, like force them to flip because they're getting pressured. They flip into your power and you can get there. The big ones for me too is just like when you get to the late game with Kylo, you just always have to know, like, okay, do they have a force unit out? Can I flip? Like, can I delay my flip? Am I going to die?
Yeah, and you couldn't, because
really,
you're worried about lightning there, primarily, right?
Right. That's one of the most efficient ways to deal with Kylo. So if you can delay the flip so that you can clear the board of force units, that's ideal. Which of the Mist is your best friend in this matchup so that you can play around power? So things like that is what you need to be thinking about.
Makes sense. The mirror. I mean, you guys must have tried it. What are you looking to do in the mirror?
Yeah, I mean,
Frank, you're muted.
Sorry, we've never tried the mirror on purpose. I mean, to be honest.
yeah, I think this is out there now. Like, we had a gentleman's agreement that we just weren't going to waste time practicing the mirror because we knew we're basically the only people playing this deck. So, like, literally no one practiced it pre-Worlds. I've played 2 now in competition, and I think that's like the most on the team. The general idea is like you want to be the second one to flip Kylo. So it is just a board fight. It's a little similar to Vader mirrors actually, in that it's just a board fight, and then you want to have to make the other person have to flip their Kylo first because they're going to lose if they don't, and then you have the answer. So that's what we got. It's not very complicated, to be honest.
Kylo Green. This is Rebel Traders list. You see this in ECL and Data Vault, by the way, and they're both reasonable. A little bit different decks with better strengths, with advantages and disadvantages into certain kinds of decks. I don't think either is objectively better.
I'm less afraid of the Data Vault version than the ECL. Mostly just because ECL in one of the 6-drops is a really powerful thing. Like, just being able to clear our board, especially if they ramped into them, and then following it up with the Kylo flip as just having like 2 big guys is really hard for us to deal with.
George did this a lot in practice, though, for us the week before Galactic. So, George, what do you think? You probably have more insight than any of us about this matchup.
Yeah, I played this dozens of times. So I think, the Kylo Green flip is really backbreaking with the legal authority being able to capture things, the craving power, being able to kill Anakins, being able to kill like high value targets. It's really rough. The Cham Syndulla was a huge add here for our sideboard. Being able to match their ramp and develop a unit, that was huge. Rivals Fall. When they're capturing stuff and you can just Rivals Fall and kill Kylo, that gives you the green light. It's kind of similar to the Kylo Red thing that Reflex just mentioned. Killing Kylo, like, you're not really able to get past Kylo. I mean, you can infiltrators and try and scam them out that way, but like, really, you gotta set up the board state to where you can kill them. Whether it's power dark side, or much more difficultly, it could be Force Lightning, because you can play the Anakin after they flip. There's a lot of nuance here, like any matchup, but generally,
should the
kill matchup. Kill
Should-
Kylo flip. Sorry, what?
Should the Kylo ECL be saving for Vader into your leader?
I actually think I actually think that's very rare because the Kylo Tarkin Town wants to play Migs. I ECL Super Laser Tech a lot.
Right.
I did a lot that weekend. And I think that's generally correct. Killing the MiG because that's so much offensive pressure. You're also at 25 health base. You're also typically going to be ahead on them on resources. So by the time they flip their Kylo on 7 resources, you have timely intervention Vader.
Right.
Or timely intervention Anakin. So like you don't need to save your ECL to kill Kylo. That's not necessary.
No, I think it's a
It
good
also
point.
plays around the lightning on the super laser tech, which is like one of the things that we want to look for against the villain decks usually.
Makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah, this is a whole different beast when it ramps. Just generally. Like whenever either of the Kylo Greens gets a ramp off, that changes drastically the matchups, in my opinion.
Yeah. And from the Kylo perspective, like the pillages are super good here. Obviously, like getting them low on cards, really good. They play a Pershing, try to kill it as soon as possible, deny them as much card draw as possible. Force throw is going to be really good most of the time, but you do have to be wary that you're also one of the reasons that Kylo Tarkin Town is good against force throw is because we just get to put more upgrades in our discard. Kylo ECL also has that to a degree, but it's still slightly better. But yeah, those are general just things that you would want to do.
Yeah, I think actually you might have added Lampike into the Kylo there because of Kylo Tarkin Town. I do think he thinks it's a strong matchup. All right, what about Boba Data Vault? This deck is actually, I think it was actually the most played deck last weekend.
Yeah, it's
Which
everywhere.
Yep.
It was my only game
Um,
yesterday. I went 14-1 in games, and this was my one loss. So it's a tough deck.
How'd you beat it the other 2 times?
You kill other ships. If they have no ships, they can't do anything to you, and your Kylo flip is free. Then I mean, they don't have any way to deal with your Kylo flip if they don't have a board. They literally have nothing to stop your Kylo. So.
Yeah. Some of them play like Fang Fighter's main or that probe droid to defeat upgrades, but they're not killing Kylo. They're just like taking one of the many upgrades off of him. So it can change math, but it doesn't kill you. The big thing is just like don't ever let them have a giant OB target, right? So just keep killing the things. Power of the Dark Side is like the greatest card in this matchup. Early MiG starts are really good because they play a lot of 3/2s. Or 4/2s, 2 health units in general. So just being able to do that, clear the board, not have to use Tarkin Town, and then save it for and then power, and then they play a power on their 3-drop, and then they play Fet's Fire Spray on 4. You get to cycle again, deal 2 to it, Tarkin Town it. I think one of the important things is like when you're assigning indirect damage to your own units is knowing, some of them are playing things like IG 2000. So don't leave 1 health on one of your guys. Like try to keep your units to have 2 health.
And then Boba's flip also does that too. Like if he gets on a ship, he can take out everything with one
Right. Oftentimes I try to bait my opponent to flip Boba onto a ship if it's the only one, because I'm trying to save a Power of the Dark Side for the flip turn.
Yeah, and then Force Lightning's the best card in this matchup. You want to try to hit the 4/2 and Laser Tech, the 4/2, and then Raider are the main targets. And like you want to try to not lightning anything but those because it's so premium against those units.
Right.
Or anything that Boba flips onto. That's also nice.
Yeah, if you can kill Boba.
This is Thor's flip if it has an invisible hand, and certainly if it has, if the Crate Dragon's out. It's a good answer to that.
Right.
All right, hard control. This happens to be Iden Data Vault, which I think has actually maybe come back as the most significant hard control that's out. But you can see this with all kinds of different formulations of leader. It's less important than the cards. How are you attacking hard control?
Madi.
However you want.
Mm-hmm. You have all day to figure this out when you're playing.
Yeah, the big thing is, when they're not pressuring you, like with units, or especially in the early game, like you have so much latitude to execute your game plan with no pressure that you can just stall it. Like I think Ian played a game once where they like restocked him 3 times and you just won because like you just got all the cards again. Like, there's when the deck's not pressuring you and all their stuff is like big like single units that we can just kill with all of our removal. It's really hard for them to put enough pressure on us for it to matter.
And if they try to keep up with us as we drop our units early, and they try to keep up with us with their events, then we just pillage them and take out their big units before they even play them. Especially we got a force throw off. I force throw them all the time with no purpose other than just to discard a card out of their hand.
Correct.
Their board, it's so easy to kill their board. They don't even have a board. There's nothing for us to be killing anyway.
And once you put it into top deck mode once, it's very difficult for them to get out of it and kind of save the answers they need.
Exactly.
So I think that's the first priority, is trying to, by hook or by crook, get them into the point that they have to top deck. All right, well, great stuff, guys. This has been an excellent thing. I think we really did get into the cards and the play lines here. So, and I've already asked you guys all how you prepare for a big tournament. So go back to the other master classes that Ian did, which is Han Yellow. George has done like 5. Frank Myers, Blonde Sabine answered that. Boba Green and Prince Reflex answered that. So you can listen to their answers there. So I'm going to ask a different.
Loopy, I did Han2 Blue.
And Han2 Blue.
Han2 Blue at Gen Con last year.
Well, we're gonna have to get it. I didn't forget. We're gonna have to get a Han2 Blue remastered. So we're going to do.
Don't ask me to do that. I don't like the deck that much anymore.
But it's a good deck. It's probably underplayed now.
It's still a good deck.
But what I want to ask is this, though. We're gonna ask a different question for this one because you've all answered the other. So for somebody what advice do you have for somebody picking up this deck? Kylo Tarkin Town. If they're looking to actually, do what all of you have done and win a big event, where do you start?
I would focus one match at a time. Like, start with the most prevalent match that you think you're going to play against and just learn how to play against that deck. And then once you feel like you have a grasp on it, move to another deck. I think if you just go and jam this on some online platform and play against random decks and you play against 5 different decks in 5 rounds, you're going to be so overwhelmed because you're trying to execute the same game plan against 5 different decks and it's not going to go over well. But if you just focus on one matchup and figure out okay, how do I beat Quinlan? Let me play that 20 times in a row and try to figure that out. You'll have a way better time, and I think it'll ease the learning curve.
Yeah, and by the way, if you play the deck you're trying to know how to beat, it's fine to play against yourself. There's a bunch of different ways that you can do that, both in person and online. So I goldfish all the time. I know George does because I see him doing it on Tabletop Simulator, sometimes, but it's there. And then also just when you're jamming games, I do jam all kinds of games into randoms in all kinds of formats. I also play into my teammates, but you got to watch what you wish for. I had somebody yesterday tell me, or maybe last week, an Akbar told me they made Sabine easy, and then I played Sabine into him, and it didn't go well. So it's there. I'm sure that he did very well into a couple of Sabines, but if it's not somebody that's knows the deck, it's not there. George, any thoughts from one of the builders of this?
From learning.
I don't think this is an easy deck to pick up. I struggled with it too. My games I did in prep did not always go well at all.
I'm go back to numbers. Think about what you can in any strategy game. Turning your resources into advantage is the most core fundamentals. And in this deck, it's a lot of combining cards. So think about how you're playing multiple cards in one turn and what kind of situations you need to actually get value from that, right? Oh, you can say, I want to play a lightsaber on 4 resources. Well, you need to have a unit still alive. So what kind of lines can you do to ensure that? What kind of units are risky in certain matchups? Like that kind of thing. Just think about what you can do with your resources, and look at cards like Force Lightning and be like, oh, this card's good every single part of the cost curve. Long Pike is good for multiple parts of the cost curve. That kind of stuff will help you set up situations where you're not falling behind early in the game, so you can get to do the really cool, flashy Kylo stuff at the end of the game.
Frank?
Well, yeah, I think the big learning curve for me, I've mentioned a few things today, but I think a lot of it is just realizing this is a removal deck. Like the first half of the game, you're just killing their units. Just remove their units and then remove cards from their hand. Remove units, remove cards from their hand. Keep doing that. Hopefully you chip in some damage until you then do the mathematics to figure out how you're going to flip Kylo and win the game. That's what you're doing with this deck. And I think Legopizza's idea about just pick like a Sabine matchup and play 20 games against just Sabine. I mean, do that and you'll see the lines start to appear when you do things that way.
Like a beautiful mind.
Yeah.
It just
really
starts
is.
visualizing. George has seen the movie.
It really is.
Reflex too. All right, Reflex, take us home.
Yeah, I think the main thing with this deck is it's very unintuitive. Like, it took all of us well, maybe some of us more than others, but it took most of us a long time to get to where we are with this deck. Like, we spent 8 days in Vegas with 10 to 20 of the best players in the world figuring this out. This isn't easy. Don't get frustrated early. Every game is going to be contextual based on your hand and the matchup and who has initiative. There's not a single matchup where it's like, this is the best game plan and we're only doing this every time. The game plan changes for every matchup depending on how your hand comes out. So definitely takes a lot of time to reach mastery. It's worth the investment to put in, but realize that you have to put that investment in. So yeah, it's been a ton of fun. Just shout out to the entire team and everyone who not only helped build the deck, but spent so much time playing games into us. I think that made all of us a lot better, and there's a lot of people that have hands in taking this deck to where we were able to take it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we could only get 4 of you, on, right here, and I hope there. But I mean, certainly it is a team effort. And check out the Bothan Network. Check out the For the Network YouTube channel. They got all sorts of stuff going on there. The kind of history and deck building and all of those videos are already there. I watched them getting out here, and then by all means hang out with them on Discord.
Yeah, and soon we're gonna have a new show coming out with me and George, and Frank and Reflex are also have a hand in this as well, but it's going to be a really cool like game show type series called Cardboard Chefs. So think like Iron Chef or Chopped, but instead of cooking up the next beautiful masterpiece in the kitchen, we're going to be cooking up some deck lists and battling it out and seeing who can make up the coolest deck with some secret ingredients.
Heard, Chef. We'll see it. All right. Love all you guys. We'll see you in Seattle too. And I hope for everybody watching along that this has helped you. I do think that this is a meta deck. I do think it will stick around too, because one thing about Kylo is he'll get maybe a little bit better as upgrades happen, right? Because they can add
exactly.
And speaking of Seattle too, people don't realize we have a website, bothannetwork.com, and we'll be posting, I think as early as tomorrow, some information about how you can get tickets to play in Seattle too, or watch our coverage. We also post articles our team writes about topics that you may enjoy at bothannetwork.com.
All right, so check it out. Thanks all you guys for lending your considerable talents to this. I do think we probably made the definitive how to play Kylo video. So thank you all for that. And for everybody watching along, if you've watched this far, you're my hero.
Good night. Sweet dreams.
Night, everyone.